Well, it's funny that that's the first question because that's one of the biggest issues for me, having everything, especially with lockdown, having everything with one space. It's really hard to sometimes separate that this desk is where I do work. It's where I relax, watch TV. Sometimes I eat at this desk because I'm working at my laptop, and it becomes when you do everything in one room, sort of it becomes sort of difficult to separate things in my head at least. So sometimes I'll find myself not doing work when I should be because I'll just be sat at my desk. So then I'll try and force myself to go to the library just to get away from that space and get into a working mindset.
So I have a spare room in the house, which is an old bedroom that we've basically converted into an office. So it's kind of completely like back in the back corner of the house. So I'll only ever use that when I'm doing university or work. Don't really use it for anything else. So it's like a completely separate workspace.
These little blue light glasses, because apparently they're supposed to help, and I wear them all the time, and I still get headaches, and I'm still knackered all the time. So I don't know how useful they are, but definitely I believe in screen fatigue, and just sitting down for hours as well. It can be really, really tiring and really difficult to get stuff done.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I mean, I think anyone who wears a pair of glasses could tell you that screen fatigue is real. And I mean, that's true. Like, you need to keep an eye on your eye health. That's why I've always tried to switch off, at least go somewhere else, not where I'm not staring at the screen. It's kind of hard as a photographer because editing, writing essays, and in between that, there's literally maybe, I don't know, 5 hours where you just have to switch off, and like between staring at a television and like doing work on your laptop, you kind of need to do that. So screen fatigue is certainly real.
When I made a presentation, which is group work presentation, it's last year very easy to contact group work member in face to face, and easy to make a presentation. But this year it's very difficult to make presentation in the group work because using internet is difficult to say what I want to say to the group members, because only chat, sometimes video, that's fine.
I would say that it's a very daunting and very almost hollow feeling, because when I visited the university during the lockdown period, safely, of course, and seeing so many different societies, different lectures, events, and such being either rescheduled, cancelled, or changed into a video form, I feel a very hollow feeling because I feel upset for the people who are starting their first year, who won't get the full fresher experience and the full support that they need during their university time, in comparison to my own first year where everything was happening. And I remember at least the first half of the academic year was a consistent one thing after the other in terms of event, work, studying and so forth. Whereas compared to now, it feels more like a limbo, and that even though you're still doing your degree and still studying and focusing, it feels not as rewarding, or it doesn't feel like a genuine experience as much.
Yeah, definitely. I think that what I used to do when uni was normal, at least you're moving in between lecture halls, you're not constantly in front of a screen, and so you've got that inclination to get up once every hour or once every 2 hours, and even then you'd have breaks. So it was much easier to keep yourself motivated and moving. And then I would go to the gym after university or go out with my friends, whereas now I can do 2 hours on my laptop and just be absolutely done for the rest of the day, be completely knackered. And it's definitely taken a toll in motivation and productivity. I just tired all the time. So yeah, not great.
I'm just not motivated to do work, really. That's about it. Like, I'll do other stuff. Like, I've been motivated to do recreational things, but no, work-wise, it's just it's just shot down my motivation to do anything. Like, but I mean, even like if it's something I enjoy, like the modules and like even the seminars, I still have no motivation to do them. I have no motivation to go to them, but I still make myself do it because I enjoy them anyway, even if I don't think I will.
In live lecturing is there's another dynamic. You know, you can't be as dynamic as in an you can't be as dynamic in an online lecture than being live in person. There's another layer of I don't know, comfort that you get from being there on campus, receiving the words from the mouth that they came from instead of virtually. And I think, even being there, being shown examples live is infinitely more helpful than getting examples and stuff from on the computer.
My own personal feelings is that they are, in my opinion, the most optimal and safest way of conducting lectures during this pandemic. While I may not personally enjoy it as much as being in person, and I feel that it is limited, it is, however, the safest option, I think, in regards to keeping people safe, especially as we ourselves are within tier 3 and are currently still recovering in the number of infected cases.
I think one thing that stood out to me is how hard my lecturers have tried to just make it as good as they possibly can. And it's not easy making the transition from face-to-face every session. And my course is a lot of seminars, so it's small groups with a lot of discussion. And making that transition from being in face-to-face where you can see each other, anyone can speak at any time, to Teams, it was quite challenging for them, I think, but they've done a really good job.
I actually think that Hull Uni have done very, very well. It seemed to me that very early on and very quickly, like before this new academic year had started, like my lecturers definitely had already pretty much pre-recorded the whole module for both of my modules. And the way that especially one of my lecturers has done it, so he doesn't really necessarily teach in our live lectures. It'll be more of a question and answer or anything that he keeps getting regular questions on, which I think's been really quite beneficial. And having all the lectures already pre-recorded with the PowerPoint slides and extra notes available, definitely easier to go back to, to refer back to, especially when you're revising for exams and stuff. On the flip side, I think it has had an impact on one of my modules being a practical module. That's been not ideal, but obviously there's nothing that anyone can do about it. They've dealt with it the best that they can.
I've had to force myself to put a structure on my day, basically, because I'm not going in and out of uni. There's not that natural structure, so I've had to make sure I've had a good structure in terms of getting up and starting to do work and things. I think my time management has been slightly worse, but I think that's mainly focusing on structure and making sure I have a structure, which I've kind of had to enforce myself, is the way I've kind of got around it. It's try to have at least some sort of working day structure. So I always try and get up at a good time, then work basically, and then since I'm already be at my desk working, then it's just a case of tuning into the lectures when they come on, and then that gives you some time to chill in the evening as well. So that's been the aim anyway, is to just have a good habit of getting up at a good time, not too late to bed.
It's just that it's hard to plan ahead, It's hard to make plans and to know exactly what you're doing, because you have to think of more than there's a lot to think about, even if you want to go to uni and learn there, because you have to think about how you should stay sanitized and how you should avoid contact and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely tougher to plan ahead. Yeah.
Yes, as a perfectionist, definitely time management has been something where I've gone, right, I need to look at this. I need to make sure that I'm managing my time effectively. If a lecture isn't particularly engaging, I, instead of just going off of it and abandoning it, do the work that is relevant for that course in that allocated time with the lecture still going on in the background. Or if a lecture's been cancelled for whatever reason, I still make sure to use the timetable that I would have used when university was normal, even now. And so I don't do anything personal, like anything personally related, unless it is out of my allocated uni time. So like I have an hour for lunch between 12 and 1, and then I have like little breaks in between, but I make sure that I stick to this. And I don't stick to it all the time, but it's nice to have what I've created as my own timetable, because the uni one isn't particularly like intense enough for me to actually get my coursework done.
I haven't. I haven't had any sleep schedule. I haven't organised at all, really. I'll just sort of like usually I used to be able to like do work late at night, like before I go to bed, or like before I'll give myself like an hour before I go to bed to do whatever. But like before that, I'll spend a couple of hours doing work. But now it's like I'll wake up, maybe do 30 minutes to an hour of work, and then I'm done for the day, and I'll forget about it, and then it's the next day. I'm like, yeah, I did some yesterday, I'll do some tomorrow. I haven't had any organization whatsoever.
So I cannot go around there, which is library, my friend's house. The only stay my room. So easy to sleep. So I'm always sleeping. So yeah, it doesn't work. Sorry.
I think definitely for my practical module, because the lecturer seems to have an awful lot more teaching compared to my more theory-based module. So like with my theory-based module, we can contact him, and to be honest, he'll answer within like 30 seconds. Whereas with my practical module, it can be really, you've got 2 lots of 2-hour slots a week. And if you kind of stuck outside of that, then sometimes you do have to wait until your next live lecture. So it can be difficult.
Obviously, being an English student, we have a lot of discussions about literary works and stuff like that, and books. So usually in an in-person session, we'd go in, I'll sit around a table, and then anyone can just raise in with something, like the lecturer will speak, and then anyone can raise in with something. On Teams, it's different because the lecturer will be speaking about something, and because the sessions are only an hour long as well, there really usually isn't enough time. Whereas the in-person ones usually keep 2 hours. I even had a few 3-hour ones. There just isn't enough time for that question and answer or discussion element. So most of the time it'll be a lot of information being taught.
Not in a bad way in terms of lectures. I feel like all the materials that's been put on Canvas it's been past recordings as well. And then as I mentioned before, the drop-in sessions where you get a chance to ask your lecturer directly about some of the lecture content or any questions in general, which I haven't had that in previous years. Has been really beneficial to understanding lecture content. It's just practicals that I feel like I suffered, but I don't know if this is, in response to the COVID virus, that perhaps I've had less practicals this semester, so less of them have had to be put online. But it's just practical stuff that I perhaps don't understand as well as I would have if I did it hands-on. But lecture content, it's been really fleshed out, been really good.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially at the start of the semester when we were all just getting on our feet with Teams, the lecturers would get to their allocated time and then just sort of say, right, see you later. But if you were there in person, you could go down and you could speak to your lecturer and you could ask them any questions. That was lost at the start of the term. And I feel like with my first bout of assessments, I really could have done with that extra time to talk. It isn't until about 3 or maybe 4 or 5 weeks in where they started to say, oh, I'm going to hang around for 10 minutes to answer your questions at the end. And that kind of substituted for that time that we lost in terms of them physically being there. So there has been an improvement in terms of the fact that they've started to realise people need to talk to them at the end of the content. But it definitely, I feel like I am teaching myself a lot of the course.
What I can say is that I have definitely been more stressed than I have been previously. I think that's probably a mixture of COVID and being like fourth year and having like a large number of deadlines coming up and having to do a higher standard of work. So I think it could be a mixture of both.
That, you know, I've certainly been thinking a lot more. My head's been a bit spinning. So, I mean, COVID-19 definitely has affected people in different ways. And I think the fact that online learning, that hasn't really done much of an impact for me. There's only been 1 or 2 cases where a teacher just has ignored my emails or just hasn't given me the answer I was looking for, where I would normally prefer to talk to them in person. But no, definitely COVID's hurt people, and probably definitely me as well, actually, mentally. I wouldn't say it's a scarring experience though, but it'll be certainly that if it continues for so long, it certainly will scar at some people.
For my personal mental health, my main strain and difficulty was not being able to see my family members during the lockdown period. Due to one of my family members having a very serious illness, this also massively affected my mental health due to the fact that I was not aware of how much time I would have with that person. I was really upset that I was losing that time being away from them due to the lockdown restrictions. And during that period, which was around halfway near the end of the first lockdown, that really affected my mental health. Being able to socialize with my friends via Zoom has been a massive benefit for it. But in regards to my daily life and social interactions, as well as not being able to see family members, that has definitely impacted my mental health in a negative way. As a positive note, I have managed to grow a bit more resilient during lockdown. Whereas before, the idea of being in a house or building for a long period of time and not seeing anyone seemed like a very daunting prospect. Now that I have been through it twice, this has given me a bit more resilience and a bit more trust in myself, which has had a positive impact on my mental health, giving me a bit more confidence to be able to deal with it and deal with any panic attacks or anything that I myself suffer with personally.
Yeah, I got affected by it, and like I feel less motivated and down a lot more, and I'm really fortunate to have a good social bubble that I'm in right now. So a lot of friends that I can talk to and stuff like that. That was a big help. But if I were, for example, in a house with people that I wouldn't know or I wouldn't be friends with, I think this pandemic would be devastating for my mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been that bad, but it has sucked. It's not really good for anyone's mental health. But like, I've been fine through it. It's just like, I wish it was different. I feel like this year's just sort of wasted. It's just sort of gone by without anything. I guess it's more so affecting the fact that I'm more extroverted now, and I'm like, I'm in my early 20s now. This is meant to be the best time of your life. It's meant to be the fun time, and I'm just sort of like, even if it's just a year or however long after this, it's just sort of like, I don't like it. I want to do stuff.